Okay, so today is the agriculture sector which we are talking about. We have covered, quite a few sectors now. We have done education, retail, transportation, manufacturing. Manufacturing is, apart from agriculture, two other broad bucket for the economy of the country. One is manufacturing, one is services, right? And we have looked at manufacturing last time, and we really saw a very, very scary picture, especially for the MSME sector. There is no easy way out for manufacturing. We have looked at various facets of the services sector. If you look the other areas, education or retail or transportation, which we covered so far, they are actually all services, right? So they have, a mixed services sector has a mixed bag. Some of them are doing okay, as we just have been talking. If you are in milk and milk products, if you are in grocery, if you are in online retail, completely focused on food items like Big Basket. Spencer, I was seeing a case study. Spencer has achieved almost 85% of its sales in 40 cities because they are supplying the essential stuff. So certain sectors of the services sector is doing well. Certain sectors like education, financial services, they have largely adopted to a online platform and sort of managing. And few, of course, are struggling, especially on the sports and entertainment side. The services sector we discussed last time again is badly hit, right? So manufacturing is a clear red zone, if you may say. It is suffering. Services is, some are doing okay, some are doing not so okay. And that leaves us the agriculture sector. And one good thing about agriculture is whatever may happen, if you need something, the basic of the basic need is food, right? So of course agriculture has many dimensions. Agriculture is food grains, pulses, which is of course something people will consume because that is fundamental to our energy requirements. But there are segments of agriculture which are also affected, right? So if you look at floriculture, the cultivation of flowers, a lot of which is exported. We may not have a good scenario now because that is definitely not a priority, right? Or cash crops, as they say, the crops which yield you much higher, uh, revenue, but it is also dependent on many other things like supply chain. Many of them has to be refrigerated to reach the destination. A lot of quality control, and with the supply chain of agriculture today being disturbed, many of these cash crops may not be in a very good shape. So within agriculture, if we look at it, again it's a mixed bag. But in the broad terms, agriculture is probably best uh, positioned at this point of time for three factors. One is food is a fundamental need, which will continue to be. Second is, this has not affected the food grains and the livestock, though there are some discussion about chicken and poultry being infected, but it was found that is not the case. And also the cattle and every other animal stock which a farmer keeps is not affected. And third is, the farmers normally are in a situation, though they are much poorer than there a lot of people in the urban areas, they are in better position to keep social distance. because that is how the villages are structured. And because they are traditionally quite poor and very limited amount of support available to them, naturally they are much more compliant than the urban folks. So while COVID is a virus which doesn't affect based on where you are or where you are coming from, but if you look at the numbers in India, it has largely affected people in the urban areas. One is concentration of people there, and second is, urban people are also much more lax than rural people, who naturally are much more cautious about all these sorts of dangers. So there are a lot of things which are going good for agriculture, and but then there are massive challenges which will come, because while agriculture, the other thing is that this year the Rabi crop, which is what is sown in the month of November, December in the winter, and then harvested in May onwards, May, June, that production is also very good. So the crop is also, as it is saying, the bounty crops. Of course, there is challenge in who will, harvest the crop, and after harvesting, how it will be transmitted or transferred or transported to the mandis or wholesalers, and then to the consumers. But the good news is the production has also happened pretty well for this year. But there are certain challenges which will come for this sector for the coming years, and we'll look at it. So let's start with some numbers. This is our agricultural, the production, gross value added of agriculture allied sector. If you see, it is last financial year, $265 billion, and our GDP was 3 trillion. So 3,000. So approximately 15% of the value added to the economy is from agriculture. Though around 40% of the people are involved in agriculture. We know that, disproportionately large number of people are in agriculture sector. And that has its own challenges, which is not necessarily for COVID, but it is under a lot of pressure because of that many more people are dependent on agriculture, because of which it creates poverty, it creates, the division of the land in smaller pieces, which is not very remunerative to, or not very productive to produce. And below, we have looked at, what are the sort of Rabi and Kharif. These are the terms we have all read in our school time, and probably is a good way to remember. Rabi is something which I just mentioned, winter, and then we harvest in spring, and Kharif is something which we start sowing in after the Rabi is harvested June, and then it is April, May, sorry, May, end of May, and April, end of April, early May, and then you harvest it around December or so. And Rabi, the main crop is wheat, and the rice is the main crop in Kharif. And so when we are talking about the Rabi being good this year, which means that there is a very high production of very above average production of wheat. But then the wheat in India is produced largely in the western states of Punjab, Haryana, western UP. And especially in Punjab, Haryana, this wheat cultivation happens in large tracts of land. So people own large tracts of land and use migrant laborers for the harvesting, and a lot of machinery. Now, machinery may be there. Of course, there will be challenges of who are the drivers, whether you will have the tractor drivers available in time. But the bigger challenge today in the Rabi crop is that the crop is good, but the labor, a large number of migrant laborers in agriculture sector and India, by some estimates, has around 16 crore migrant laborers, out of which 4 to 5 crores are in agriculture sector. A large number of them has moved back. You know, the laborers for the Punjab and Haryana, Western UP, essentially come from Western UP. Doesn't need labor from outside, but Punjab, Haryana comes from Bihar and Eastern UP, and the large number of them has moved back. In fact, we sometime back we saw flow of them coming from Delhi, right? So they came from Punjab, Delhi, Haryana. So that is one concern here, and there are a few other concerns also will be there. Now, if you look at agricultural produce, obviously, you know, whether it is economic upturn or downturn, will not compromise on basic food, that is wheat, rice, pulses, oil seeds, but the other produce, as I mentioned, you know, whether cotton will be having a good market this year, groundnut will be having good market this year, you know, cashew nuts and this, you know, dry fruits as we call, whether they will be having a good market this year, we really don't know. Because if people's income gets substantially slashed, as well as there is a significant amount of uncertainty about the future, people will cut down on the consumption beyond the basic consumption, right? And added to that, you know, India exports around $60 billion worth of agricultural produce to other countries. Some portion of it is, of course, you know, rice and wheat, but a large portion of it is cash crops and, you know, horticultural products and stuff like that. So that is also going to be affected, because the other countries' ability to buy is reduced. In fact, you know, touching back from the milk consumption, which we are just discussing as we started, apparently the consumption of milk by China has reduced by 19%. And China is one of the major importers of milk from other countries. Countries, as you know, that, you know, New Zealand, for example, is a dairy country. So they, you know, they are now facing challenges because of one side, the other country is probably not consuming, because, you know, again, China, probably the same thing is happening. People are consuming more of rice, and rice is their staple food, and saving money rather than going for, you know, milk products. And other is the international supply chain also is largely affected, right? Moving on, these are the slides which we, you know, at least the graphs which we used before, you know, to show the share of agriculture, manufacturing. So agriculture, if you see that, you know, the share is around 12%, you know, that is what we looked at, right? You know, the previous slide, that it is 265 out of, you know, 3 trillion is around. Also, it actually, it will be, maybe there is a disconnect in this number. It is showing around 12. So maybe, you know, the previous graph is showing 9 odd percent. The current GDP of us is, of course, 3.015 trillion. So we have grown at 4%. So maybe if we plug it back, it will come back to around, say, 9-10%. But as I said, a disproportionate number of people actually are dependent. And on the right side, if you look at the economic impact, if you see, the agricultural impact is relatively low, minus 15%, whereas some of the manufacturing and services sector are, you know, significantly affected, right? And the reason for that is that, you know, these are the two slides I picked up from, you know, a BCG presentation, which has, you know, shows that, you know, consumer sentiment. It is, I think they did it on 14th April or so, not very long back. The date is somewhere maybe missing. This is India data, and they are looking at, they have asked people, what do you think, you know, what will happen in consumption of these various things, utility, fresh food, grocery. And if you look at the essential daily life, which is utility means power, water, fresh food, grocery, personal care and household care. This is again personal care, household care largely will be driven by disinfectant, personal hygiene and stuff like that. So out of the five, two are food products. And if you look at the fresh foods and groceries, the number of people who will saying that a lot more is 35%, 27%, and people who are saying a lot less is 9%, 13%. So significantly more number of people are saying that, we'll be consuming more food. So I think it is also adding up to the fact that, apart from the essential needs of it, people are also feeling that, I'll cut down in every, discretionary spend, you know, which in this case probably, at home entertainment, which also people are saying I'll do better, but nevertheless, so a lot of discretionary spend, which is not shown here, like travel, like, buying new gadgets or buying new, automobiles, and people will probably focus more on ensuring that they stay more healthy. That is one of the key suggestions anyway to fight COVID. And something similar again, in a same presentation from Boston Consulting Group, if you look at, what are the segments which are seeing downside, and this actually sums up a lot of what we discussed over a period of time in last couple of days. So if you look at, the downside, and then, badly in downside are the ones which has been anyway totally controlled, totally restricted, right? So travel, tourism, auto, building material, and they are anyway, some of them may revive, but many of them will take time to revive. Like travel, tourism will not revive, auto and components will not revive. But as we open up, building material, offline education, construction will, revive. Consumer durables will be, partially reviving. This is, of course, all our assumptions, looking at, how people sentiment at this point of time. Now, if you look at the partially restricted, again, these are the ones which has undergone some amount of downside. But among the not restricted, if you see, food and food retail has actually seen a upswing. In fact, because of the panic buying and, people trying to, store stuff at, and also, as you rightly said before start, Atanu, that people are probably much more regular at in eating, and everybody is eating everything at home. There is no eating out, there is no eating at office or roadside. So obviously our consumption of the basic food items, food grains, cereals, the groceries have gone up significantly, right? And as far as agriculture is concerned, there is a limited amount of, as it says, business as usual, but we may some labor logistics issues. So labor we already talked about, logistics we'll talk about very soon. But so far as the agriculture as of now, as of today, since the crop is at the the large part of the agriculture, which is the Rabi crop, is on the field, the impact is limited. But if we continue to have this situation up to end of May, then the agriculture also will be seeing a severe downside, because if the crop doesn't move, then farmers will start doing panic selling, and the prices will crash, and even if there is a minimum support price, MSPs, that will not be honored, and all that sorts of chaos will start happening. This is some of the problems which we talked on the left side: non-availability of migrant labor, supply chain challenges, the agricultural, while the current year's agriculture is already there and almost ripe to be harvested, there are other agricultural movement has also got restricted, and which will have impact for next year. So that's where, if you hear, even in India, people are talking about there may be severe food crisis. So what are the other things? There is no movement of fertilizer, right? There is no movement of seeds. Now seeds, lot of seeds in India is managed by the farmers themselves. They keep the seeds for next year, but large farmers actually buy seeds from the people who grow seeds. So we have these seed companies like ITC, right? So if they are non-functional, then large farmers will not get adequate seeds because they don't save as many seeds as small farmers do. Then obviously you have the genetically modified seeds like cotton, which is completely now GM cotton. And if those seeds don't move, the cotton production will be affected. The other challenge will be also the labor movement is affected. The end product may not move. And then if you have continued problem with the inputs like fertilizer and the fertilizer, the third thing is fertilizer, seeds and pesticides, right? So, and these are not moving at all. So that will show up as a problem for next year. Price has declined initially, and then so price is a little bit mixed. I will say it has not fully declined. Initially it shot up, and then there was a significant amount of release of stock. If you know that today nobody is looking at whether you have a ration card or not. If you have a BPL card across the country, wherever you are getting 5 kilo of rice per week and pulses. So again the price has little bit stabilized. In some cases it has reduced. The poultry, dairy and livestock has been badly hit because there is a lot of rumors that that is dangerous. Well, now of course now things have become a little more stable. You can see even in your home and our home, we have started taking some poultry products. We did not take for quite a few weeks. The food grain production is expected to 2.4% higher than last year, which may appear very small, but it's huge on the base. And right now we have very good stock with FCI. It is 3 times the buffer stock we're supposed to have. So much so, Mr. Modi is saying we'll be using some of this rice to make a hand sanitizer. Now, I don't know the technology involved, but but we have enough stock. But the problem of our stock is that it may be there on paper, but when you really look at the stock, it may not be in an edible condition. But then that's a matter of detail. A lot of disruptions that has happened on the logistic is on the right side. The disruptions in the procurement has stopped. Of course, the season is yet to come for Rabi, but the India minimum support price is given for 243 agricultural products, and they happen through the year. Many of them are not happening. Collection of harvest by private traders, like obviously if the way it works is that typically the people will harvest and then the large farmers, they will go to the mandi and sell it, or if the small farmers, the local middleman, as you call private traders, they will collect it, because if you don't produce enough, you don't have a tractor load or truck load, you will not like to go to mandi. So somebody will collect it from 10 different people and go to the mandi and sell. Shortage of people, as we talked about, shortage of drivers, because there's a very interesting thing that every year the tractors of the country moves from the Rabi wheat areas, that is they move from the Punjab, Haryana, after wheat sowing of the wheat, the tractors actually move to the Kharif crop zones. So they make a journey of 1,000 kilometers and go to other part of the country. So the same stock of the tractors are used across the country. And there is a very sophisticated system for that. It's not visible to us. There are companies who are working. There are quite a few very smart startups are managing the logistics. But right now the drivers are, very reluctant. One is, of course, they will be fearful of COVID. And second is they are also fearful that if they travel, what is the safety? Because they don't know what is waiting for them. The commodities across the major highways has been blocked because police is not very clear what to stop, what not to stop. So they are sort of stopping everything except if it is grocery and personal, the medicine and this PP mask and, sanitizer, those sort of stuff. So today it's a lot of concern, and there have been a lot of appeal to the central government to give the proper directive to the police. And APMCs are closed. APMCs are, agriculture producer marketing committees, which is essentially the mandis. The mandis are the private entities. APMCs are when, people come together and create a cooperative sort of structure. But they are not operating, or operating once in a week or twice a week. So farmers have no place to, even if they have a truck or tractor of their own and the product is, the produce is ready, they can't sell it because there's nobody to take it. So this is the last slide. This is a sort of a value chain. You can take it up. The farmer produce, they may sell it to, the collection center, which can be called the mandi, or they give it to village trader. So collection center is not the mandi. Collection center is a central government when they procure, right? Minimum service, minimum support price, MSP. So that is the collection center, and then it goes to retailer, or it goes to a commission agent, and then it goes to the mandi, or some FPO, farmers producers organization. A bunch of farmers who produce, they actually create a cooperative, come together and sell it, or the village trader, somebody who is in the locality, take it and then probably take it to the mandi on behalf of, they may be having some produce and augment it. Now, the cross are the places where the supply chain is today blocked. So if you see that farmer has probably no other way except for, going to the mandi and selling it, and then so only large farmers can do it, but then they don't have enough people to, cut their crops. Small farmers only can cut it themselves. And even if they are ready with the produce and they have a tractor or truck, the mandis are closed. So this is a little bit of challenge, which hopefully the government will take care in next 1 month, end of May. And the bigger challenge will be, how do you handle next year's produce? So how the inputs, the labor, the pesticides, insecticide, seeds, and fertilizers reach the farmers in time. So that's where we are. But the good news is that we don't have a bad monsoon this year. If it had been a bad monsoon, then things would have been really, really bad for us. So that's where I stop now. Some readings and all as usual. And maybe we can hear out take some questions. I will try to cover BFSI, which is a very large segment and very, very important segment, and hugely important, both from the, it is a growth segment. If normally your country is growing at X%, BFSI grows by 2X%. It is a very large employer of people. It creates a lot of wealth. It is in big trouble because of interlinkages. People are not paying back their interest. So the people who have taken loan to give loans are not able to fulfill their obligations. And then there are a lot of other interventions government is talking, primarily as financial interventions. So it's a very large area, complex area. We'll have a look at it in the next call. So that's it. I'll stop. I have very few people today, and I don't know whether they're there. They're there. Can discuss some stuff. That's it.